Grief Karga said you were coming.
What else did he say?
He said you were the best in the parsec. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur.
Your name will be legendary.
I don't know if you heard, but the Empire is gone.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
Hello and welcome to Mandalorian Minute, a Who Watches podcast about the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian. I'm Travis Fishburne.
And I'm Alex Brunel.
I'm Dustin Meadows.
I'm Ryan DeVere.
And this week we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 5, Chapter 13, The Jedi. Should I just start saying chapters instead of the actual...
The whole thing?
Yeah, episodic number.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're halfway through. Might as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, another snoozer of an episode. Just filler all around.
When is it going to pick up, you think?
Yeah. No, we finally got the live-action debut of Ahsoka Tano, which is a crazy thing to think about. Ryan, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah. Ahsoka could have easily just been a character that was never revisited after that terrible movie. But Dave Filoni stuck with her and turned her into like a fan favorite. It's been her character arcs have been growing, and the importance of everything she does is bigger and better. But in terms of this episode, it feels a lot like a Clone Wars episode, more so than a Mandalorian episode.
Yeah,
and I don't know that's a bad thing. It just is a different thing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, specifically this season, episodes 3 and 5. This one are both very like, oh, feel like I'm watching Clone Wars or Rebels.
Yeah.
Just something else I really like about this show is every episode. I was just thinking about this when I watched it again. Is they're all so distinct and they all have their own like flavor. It's not like when you watch another series and you're like, what episode was that? Like, you know, all of these episodes based on the locations and the characters. They're all these awesome, just mini films in and of themselves. And I think it's just getting even better. Because at the beginning of this, we got our like most Western-y feel episode with Timothy O, and then now we get our most samurai feeling episode with this. Feels like so much Kurosawa influence.
Holy cow! Yeah.
There's a shot that's a direct Kurosawa Seven Samurai knock, or just it's a Seven Samurai shot in the show.
Yeah,
it's a great shot.
Yeah, Dustin, what did you think of this episode, specifically as somebody who doesn't really have any emotional attachment to the character that so many people are losing their minds over?
So yeah, I'm on the periphery enough of all this to know that this was a huge episode, that this was a huge reveal. I mean, in spite of that, like, I think it was a great episode, seconding a lot of what's already been said about the samurai elements. And there's actually the showdown towards the end. Looks like a pretty faithful recreation of a shot from Yojimbo as well, also Kurosawa, that I really dug. And I know I said this in the last season when we were doing this, but I think Star Wars is at its best when it's just straight up ripping off samurai and westerns. Like, yeah. I think we get some of the most interesting stuff. It fits for so many of the characters, and I don't think that was any different here. And I even, this is solely just because I was so much more into it younger, but I actually got the reference they dropped at the end of the episode without being familiar with any of the outside stuff, because I heard the name and I was like, yeah, that sounds like expanded universe stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
but yeah, aside from all that, it was a great show. The actions, especially that final fight between her and whatever her
The
name was.
magistrate.
Yeah, the
Morgan,
magistrate. Yeah, just such a great fight, and it's like the first lightsaber battle we've seen in the show at all, which is a battle with lightsabers. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a great, and we'll talk about that soon when we get to it. But yeah, I dug it. I think it really paid off, and yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Alex, I gave you some homework.
Yeah, I did the homework.
Yeah. So
I watched like 4
well,
hours worth of Rebels this weekend.
So you've seen all of Clone Wars as well as Ahsoka's entire arc in Rebels. So you're very much all caught up on that.
I'm all caught up on that. I think there's other important Rebel stuff because there's the Imperial guy who is a good guy by the end of the show, and which in the episodes that I watched actually didn't even matter at all.
Oh, okay, good.
I was just like, oh, that guy looks familiar. Oh, it's him. Oh, okay. No, I loved this episode. Like, it's like peak Star Wars storytelling. It's really great Star Wars storytelling in that it surfaces people like Dustin who are unfamiliar with this character and still makes it of the Mandalorian world enough that it works by itself in that context. But if you're removed but if you have the rest of that context, it's so rich to just think about implications and where all these things go in the universe. And the thing I was most impressed by in this episode is Filoni's direction. This is correct me if I'm wrong, this is the second episode of the show he's directed. Third?
He did the pilot, and then he also did
the pilot.
My least favorite one. Yeah, the one on
straight up
Tatooine
the
last
worst
season.
episode. Yeah. Season 1, episode 5, the worst episode of the show. I would skip it if I rewatched the show. That Filoni has learned so much about directing live action from just watching the people that work on this show, and there's really no better people to learn from. There's really probably no better person for him to learn from for this kind of filmmaking than Jon Favreau. Who is very good at this kind of thing. And he's doing kind of exactly like, I'm not saying like he did a better job at directing than Favreau, but like I can see a parallel with like Filoni and Lucas, where like Filoni absorbed everything that he needed from Lucas and was like, I got you, George. Okay, I'm going to do this, but I got you. And then like just enriches it so much from what may have initially been there. And I think he's getting to do that again now, stepping into the live action director's seat. And that's just like super, super exciting.
Yeah, no, agreed. Just so many awesome influences here. Like Dustin said, all this samurai and Kurosawa influence. The stuff at the beginning with the fog is very much like out of a Throne of Blood. As well.
And you know what I was reading? I was reading about the in-universe physiology of this species. What's Ahsoka's species?
Togrutan.
Togrutan. Where the horns are hollow, and they actually kind of function as echolocation. And that helps them, quote-unquote, see in dark or haze, which is exactly why she is overpowering these troops in the very beginning of this episode in this dense fog, because just her biology. And we're watching the show, that doesn't even matter. You just believe she's a Jedi, she can do this, whatever. But the fact that there is that kind of biological reason, and Filoni knows this and makes the scene shrouded in fog and does all this for that, like to incorporate that kind of thing is just like, is incredible. It just baffles me.
Yeah, I mean, we can go right into that scene.
Yeah, why not? Because it starts off with that's the most insane part about the episodes. It starts out by giving us the thing we've been waiting for now.
Yeah.
There were two things that like really made me like just saying anything while I'm watching something is a good indicator that like, whoa, stuff's happening. And that was the first thing was as soon as you saw those white lightsabers show up, I'm like, oh, whoa. we're just getting it.
Yeah, not beating around the bush here. We're just getting 45 minutes of Ahsoka Tano action right here.
yeah, so we see her taking out these soldiers outside of the city of Caladan on Corvus, and then she has this tense conversation with the magistrate there as she's holding the residents hostage. But yeah, and there's just like so much baggage with this character, and it's crazy because I mean, when she debuted for the first time 12 years ago, I was one of those people that I could not stand this character. She was like my least favorite Star Wars character. It's just, I mean, she used to call Anakin Sky Guy.
You're stuck with me, Sky Guy.
What did you just call me? And,
Oh, God.
yeah. And she used to call R2 the very, original R2, which is, it's a good nickname, adding a syllable, shortening up R2 at R2.
And she did that for a long time too, in Clone Wars even.
And let's also point out that when she debuted, she was like an adolescent in a upsettingly skimpy outfit.
Yes.
For someone that age, which Filoni thankfully allowed her to graduate from as she got older in Clone Wars.
Yeah, her costume evolution over the years has been really great.
Yeah, and the adaptation into the outfit that she wears in this episode is, again, just like, that's exactly how I would have expected that to look. It's perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, so she steps up, and I'm like, all right, there's Rosario Dawson's face. Oh, she really looks a lot like her.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm just kind of like waiting for the voice because she's only been portrayed by one person for so long. And I'm like, how's she going to sound? She doesn't sound like Ashley Eckstein, who did the voice, but while she doesn't sound like her, like she sounds like the character. Like the cadence in which she started speaking, I'm like, oh, wow. She's like really studied the performance.
She
and
did,
I think she's got it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this was very much an indicator of how good of an actress Rosario Dawson is, just because she nailed this cadence. I mean, I've seen her in other things, and her delivery of lines is completely different than what she's done in this episode.
Totally.
I don't know. I don't even know how you begin to practice that, I guess, but she nailed it.
You watch a lot of Star Wars cartoons.
Thankfully, there's a lot. And she's in her interviews talking about how she picked up Clone Wars after like kind of getting this role and like really started educating herself. And she clearly became a fan of it in the way that she talks about it, because she had thoughts about the characters and the interactions. And I hope that we get more of her as this character.
Yeah.
I think we will. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be in this series.
Yeah. There's like 9 more Star Wars shows that we're being threatened with, and an Ahsoka Tano show is probably one of them now.
Okay. I mean, the visuals of this episode made it for me. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Is there a Pit Droid spinoff on that list?
A what droid spinoff?
A Pit Droid spinoff?
I don't know if I'd watch that one.
I didn't ask if you'd watch it. I just asked if there's one in the works.
I think it was called Star Wars Detours, and it was canceled 10 years ago before it aired.
Man.
Oh, Weird Al
Pit Droid's
just
no deal.
posted a link
I
to
saw that.
a leaked episode with him as a bounty hunter.
I know, I gotta watch that. It was like Forlom and Zuckuss, and and Al was playing Forlom. I'm like, what is this nightmare? I gotta watch it.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I mean, still, like, there's just so much here where, I mean, part of me wanted to be kind of disappointed that Ashley wasn't playing the character, but I quickly got over that, especially the more times I've watched this episode. There's an image that Ashley, like, she cosplayed as Ahsoka a few years ago.
Yeah.
And she looks like pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. There's something about the physicality that Rosario brought to it that I think.
Well, I think the thing is Ashley in her physicality in these photos very much kind of matches the physicality of, like, you know, late teen 20s Ahsoka, she very much has that physique.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Rosario has more of a physique that kind of signals she's been out there fending for herself for a long time now. And yeah, she's a bulkier, heftier kind of person. And I like the way that physicality translated. That being said, Ashley looks great as Ahsoka in this cosplay here.
Yeah. No, I'd always heard that she'd done that. I'm like, I've never actually seen the photo, so I searched them out. I'm like, oh, she looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
And then my only real gripe with her look is that I don't know if they're called Laku. I know they're called Laku on the Twi'leks, but the like her head tails, I feel like should be a lot longer than they are.
Yeah, I mean, Shakti, her horns are a lot taller too.
Yeah.
Do we know what the age range is on this species? Is Shakti maybe like 400 years old or something, and the horns and tail never stop growing?
Yeah, Shakti could very well be that old. I don't know. But yeah, the other image is from Ahsoka and Rebels, which still takes place before this, and it's they're still longer.
Yeah.
So she almost looks like she's in between Clone Wars and Rebels, and I think they probably did that to make it a little more feasible to do some of the choreography and action.
Probably, yeah. That seems. I mean, it's a great appliance. The makeup is fantastic, but I can imagine it being fairly cumbersome.
And another cool thing I like that they brought to the character is the way that she holds the lightsabers.
Yeah.
Which, as you see in that one photo, she's holding them backwards. That's always been her thing. Is she has a reverse grip on the lightsabers, which she doesn't keep throughout this episode, but just to see them use it as much as they did, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, there were. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
To be fair, she also doesn't always use it throughout Clone Wars or Rebels either. Like it's her go-to stance, but more often than not, she's changing stances a lot.
Yeah,
more so than almost any other Jedi that I paid attention to, at least.
Yeah, and another Clone Wars, or just like Clone Wars Rebels pose or thing we've seen her do is kind of pull the lightsabers out from the center and just kind of reveal them, and that exact thing happened in this episode, and it was so damn cool. Like, Jesus Christ. I was fanboying so hard for a show that I had such a hard time getting into initially. It took me so long to actually get into Clone Wars. But yeah, so happy.
Yeah. And it's been like such a teeter-totter for me on Clone Wars versus Rebels for a long time. Rebels has been my favorite Star Wars story, I think, since the original trilogy. And then these last few episodes of Clone Wars that they put out, specifically those last 4, I was like, oh wow, this might have knocked Rebels out for me. I don't know.
Yeah, but, I kind of consider those 4 episodes a mini feature by themselves, and I just kind of rank it very highly in Star Wars.
Yeah. Anyway.
So now we've talked about the opening scene.
Yes. Yeah. So then after that scene, we get a little brief scene inside the Razor Crest in which Baby Yoda is obsessing over Mando's gear shift. Yep.
It's one of the only things that we've seen in the Star Wars universe that looks like machined. Like it's a screw top cap.
Right.
I don't know why that sticks out to me. It always just looks like a prop.
No, I know what you mean, because you see it and you understand how it works. And I feel like so many things in the universe, you see them and it's not very apparent, like in the real world, how, you've never touched or dealt with anything like that. Costuming wise, I know it's always been a rule that there are no zippers or buttons. So most of the time when you do cosplays, you got to use a lot of Velcro because you can't see those seams. It has to be like the special Star Wars universe magic. And I feel the same way goes with all the hardware and stuff. So to see like those actual threads, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of those statements. Baby Yoda wants ball.
Mm-hmm. So then, Mando, he arrives on Corvus and heads into town. He sees things just aren't right, as everyone is avoiding him. And he is then summoned to see the magistrate, who offers him a spear made of pure Beskar if he takes care of her Jedi problem.
Go ahead.
You and I, Alex, are just going to keep talking over each other. We've seen Mandalorians with spears and more like traditional, like Spartan weaponry and stuff before. And I was not anticipating that to show up in this show at all, though. I thought that was just kind of a bygone era. But as soon as we saw it on.
Oh no!
Very, very cool new Mandalorian things. Yeah, I was real giddy about this. I'm dying to know what happens with it next.
I think we'll get to see Pedro Pascal show off some spear skills, which the internet has kindly informed me that he has.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even make that connection.
Some Oberyn action.
Oh. That's mind blowing.
I loved in this scene. I loved Mando's just careful use of negotiation language and never actually accepting the deal, but making the magistrate think that he did.
Mm-hmm.
I always love that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is the Yojimbo thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I really dug, like, it's such a simple thing, but when he kind of like hits his hand against it and it like just rings out for a minute. That's such a samurai thing too, like when they draw swords and all that stuff. I just like those little touches. I'm just a complete sucker for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty. It looks cool. And like it's one of those things, like if you're looking away or on your phone or something, you hear that just like, oh, what? Something interesting just happened.
It's true. It's a good sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also got to imagine that Beskar's a lot lighter than it looks if she can wield this giant spear with it.
Yeah.
And so, therefore it makes sense that they would make armor out of it.
Totally.
And another cool thing in that scene is we get the HK-87 droids, which those have been around for a long time. Those were actually originally conceived by Ralph McQuarrie as kind of like an early version of IG-88. So
these were designed in like 79?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not even know that. Like that's amazing. This show.
I mean, it's just kind of the Star Wars toy box. They just pull out whatever they see.
It totally is. It's just it amazes me that in an era where so much has been rebooted and revamped and given to us again and repackaged and blah blah blah, that like fan service, which that's what that is. Like that's really, they could design a new droid, we would not know the difference. It would just be some other kill droid. But like the fact that they found a piece of art that like does ring for some Star Wars fans who are very familiar with that stuff, and then for people like me or Dustin or Ryan or whoever doesn't know that stuff before watching the show, then we get to find out and it's like, oh wow, like that's top quality fan service.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of fan service I'm very down for.
You also get heavy influences of like K2SO in this design too.
Yeah.
Which Star Wars just has a great feel. They've always stuck within a really good feeling pocket of sci-fi. And Mandalorian is no exception to that. They're pulling from great resources.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about when he lands on the planet and we get to see this like Corvus Forest planet a little bit, and just the whole feel and vibe of it, and those giant creatures in the background that you just kind of see their silhouettes. I loved all of that.
Yeah, I loved that too. Like, he was told it was a forest planet. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, okay, we're going to an Endor. And then we come to this husk that the Empire has created. You know, the Empire has raised this world, basically. And I loved that. I loved how desolate, how broken it felt. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and Morgan Elsbeth, the magistrate, Ahsoka says that she has been just, like you said, harvesting things from planet to planet, and she's got the Beskar. So you've got to imagine she had some part in doing that to Mandalore.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So then she sends him out, and he goes out to hunt down Ahsoka. And so he comes across her, and they have a brief fight before he utters the name Martha, which we all know is the name of each of their mothers. That's for you, Alex.
Thank you.
So as we go into this section here, something that's I've still not figured out, like, I don't know if they've stated or not, but like, how is it that the Mandalorian is unfamiliar with Jedi at this point? Like,
I read a thing about, I read someone's fan theory about why that could be.
Okay.
And having lived the last 4 years in the United States, I actually have no problem believing that that the Empire could gaslight the galaxy, basically. I mean, like, think about it. You have the Outer Rim. The Outer Rim is doing their own Outer Rim thing. No one has ever come for the Outer Rim. You know, that's the place where legends flourish, because they're not centrally connected. Those are just like disparate worlds that the Empire struggled to try to control. The New Republic would later try to get under control, never really did. But like, I could easily, now that I've lived national gaslighting, I could easily see the Empire kind of really washing that under the rug to the point where people think they either never existed, weren't what they thought they were, or didn't know they ever existed in the first place, depending on what part of the galaxy you grew up in, especially if Mando's growing up in like what's equivalent to like a religious cult.
Yeah, I was going to say specifically with him, it's even, you can do that to an even greater extent.
Yeah. So I agree that that's a very valid question, because the Jedi seem like such a force, but we also have to, I think, take a step back and just realize that, like, really the only stories we've been shown in the universe have Jedi. There's a big freaking universe that we have no idea what's been going on in for generations.
That's true. But you also have stuff like he was pretty directly impacted by the Trade Federation, like the droid army. So theoretically, I mean, he's on some sort of front line, which the Jedi were. Do we know of any generals in the Clone War army other than Jedi?
No, I don't think so.
No,
that's a good point too.
Mean, to my knowledge,
that's a good point
so
too.
Absolutely.
Also, if he grew up,
we didn't see any Republic forces helping in that flashback.
Right.
That's true.
So I don't know. It seems like being a Mandalorian, growing up in the Clone Wars, somebody should have mentioned it at some point. But theoretically, I mean, as far as we know, Ahsoka is the first Jedi he's ever encountered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's.
I mean, I could see that.
Party.
I could see that being true. I mean, because what was it was Episode 3 takes place 19 years before. Is it 19 years before Episode 4? So Mando would probably have been born around that time, right?
He was born prior to that. He was a kid during the Clone Wars.
Okay, so he was yeah, but like around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know. We need Bo-Katan to show up and give us some more info.
Yeah, give us some galactic history, Katie Sackhoff. We need it.
So yeah, they meet, and then Ahsoka and Baby Yoda finally meet, and it is revealed that his name is Grogu.
Grogu.
Mm-mm.
Ryan
No,
doesn't
thank
like
you.
Grogu.
Oh no! Can we? We've undone something here. We've opened a door we can't close. We've rung a bell we can't unring.
Here's the thing. I saw a bunch of people posting this Friday. There's like, really, Grogu, and all I could think was, this is not the dumbest Star Wars name we've ever heard.
It's absolutely not.
Like,
Certainly not.
Dooku.
There was no way it was going to be something cool. It was never going to be Dash Rendar, which is arguably the coolest name.
What's Mandalorian's name? Din Djarin.
Djarin.
That's
which
a
is-
great name.
For a Mandalorian, absolutely. The only other one of these things we've seen is called Yoda and Yaddle, which sounds Yiddish as hell.
Yeah,
But Grogu, why would
let's
it
go
take
ahead and throw that
matzah
out,
over?
because Ahsoka says that she's only encountered one other being
Yeah.
of this type before, which is Yoda. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, Yaddle was
throwing
on a mission.
shade all over Yaddle.
Okay.
Which
Here's
Yaddle?
my Yaddle hot take, which I just came up with 5 minutes before showtime. Yaddle is one of the top 5 worst ideas in the prequels. I haven't vetted this with actually thinking about it that hard, but but the argument that I would make is George really specifically kept so much mystery around Yoda's species, throughout years of extended universe writings and throughout so many guidebooks and history books. No information was allowed to be given or written about the history of Yoda or his species. And then George, in his infinite wisdom, just sometime in the late 90s, is like, oh yeah, put another one on the Jedi Council, make it obviously female, call it Yaddle. Just change the letters around a little bit, add an L, and just Yaddle. And then she never comes up again, but we could assume that she's a super powerful Jedi Master considering she's on the freaking council, yet she never has dialogue and never comes up again. So, and then now, she doesn't even get a veiled reference like M-Count. She's just, I've only known one Jedi like this before, and definitely wasn't named Yaddle. So, just ideas that could have been big that go absolutely nowhere, all embodied in Yaddle. That's my rant.
no, yeah,
Also, the
I
puppet's
remember.
hideous.
It would have been so easy for them to just have a throwaway line about, I've only known 2. One died in the Clone Wars, but no, just straight up rejected outright. There is no, we're writing Yaddle right out of the canon.
I was so fascinated by Yaddle in the visual dictionary for episode 1, because she's got her photo in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another one. Like, what's all this about? And yeah, she just gets dropped. She's not in episode 2 at all. According to legends, she actually died on a mission with Obi-Wan and Anakin, of all things, prior to episode 2. But in canon, it says that she's not very involved by the time episode 2 rolls around, and she no
just
longer serves on the
retired.
council. So
She just retired. The war thing wasn't for her. She wanted to just knit with Jedi powers. Yaddle.
yeah, I think George was just trolling everyone.
And Yaddle didn't get a CG makeover on the Blu-rays. Just saying.
Yeah. Anyway, so we only know. So I mean, I guess it's fair to say that we really won't ever know more about Yaddle at this point. Then it's just it's all gone.
Maybe, you don't know.
There's gonna be a retcon, season 3, episode 6 is gonna have a Yaddle reference. Yaddle will be the child's mother. Oh God.
It very well could be.
I mean,
this kid. It's revealed that he was being trained in the temple, and then he was hidden away.
Oh, what was one of the memes I saw?
Yaddle's going to be the one that ran off with them to hide him.
It could be. I saw a meme that was Baby Yoda with a happy face, and it said, Jedi Temple Hide and Seek Champion 19 BBY.
Oh,
Yeah.
Accurate.
I heard somebody just talk about the scene in which Anakin slaughters all the younglings, and just Baby Yoda is watching from like a closet, like just peeking out.
That's why he's so traumatized. I mean, poor dude is super traumatized.
He can talk, he just doesn't.
Yeah. I loved these scenes. Like, I actually really loved these quiet, like, Ahsoka and Grogu kind of just mentally communing while Mando just kind of irritably paces in the background, like, because to him, like, nothing's really happening. They're just staring at each other.
Hokey religions.
Yeah, exactly. He's very much Han in this scene for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I loved Rosario in this scene. The puppetry work on the child continues to just be like absolutely incredible. That, you know, him lighting up at hearing his own name is just like one of the most precious things I've ever seen on television.
Girl. Every time.
He does that, and then Sarah pointed out it sounds like he says me after one of those.
Oh no. He goes full ET.
Yeah. So yeah, we find out more about him. He's not a clone. He was being raised in the temple and then was hidden away after Order 66.
Which
and
that also deepens the question about this species. Of like, we know that there were other younglings in the temple that were just not protected, but this was, Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever we want to call him from now on. He was set aside specifically to be protected and hidden away and all this, which you can assume is because of the species that he is, I guess.
I mean, he's obviously cuter than that first kid that died that Anakin looked in the eye.
Oh, no.
Oh, that kid does conventions now, I'm sure. He's
fine. I used to know his name. I can't now. But yeah, Ahsoka says that he's got a deep connection with Din Djarin, and he can, just kind of considers him a father figure, and it's too dangerous to train him with that kind of a connection.
Yeah, so we have the refrain in Star Wars: I can't train him because he is too old / too young / too angry / too attached / too loving.
Yes.
Jedi don't like training people. That's all
Jedi will only train you if you are a blank emotionless slate full of raw power. That's all they'll take.
Yeah,
very, very specific.
You'd think if it was Luke, this wouldn't be the issue, because after Return of the Jedi, he kind of embraces love, and his connection and love to his father and sister is what, ends up saving the day. However, Ahsoka is still, she grew up in a different mindset, and she's still in that mode of thinking like all attachment's bad. We can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we skipped over a few things, or just one particular like little Easter egg that I think is a big Easter egg, and that's when Mandalorian is searching for Ahsoka. There's this owl that's in the corner and of the screen. And I was like, oh, that's the convoy. That's Morai, and Morai is this owl type creature that is not really in Clone Wars, but she is this representation of the daughter from Mortis, which is kind of an impersonification of the light side of the Force. And the daughter sacrifices herself to save Ahsoka. And ever since then, all throughout Rebels, we see this character named Morai, which here Ahsoka says it.
Morai, you're here.
Yeah, I just saw that one.
Right.
She's an old friend. I owe her my life.
Yeah, she's kind of this guardian over Ahsoka / kind of a companion that every time you see Morai, you know that there's some kind of a, like, Ahsoka's nearby, either spiritually or on some other kind of plane. So you can see Morai up in the top left corner of the screen.
Yeah, with a little tail and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was, I didn't know this until the internet told me afterward. I mean, I did not notice Morai in Mando until the internet told me afterward. And again, this is highest level of excellent fan service.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, and then Dave also put her in the end of Clone Wars, in the epilogue of that series, in which Vader goes and he finds Ahsoka's old lightsabers, and Morai is flying up in the air there.
Yeah. That was really cool. I mean, I just saw that episode of Rebels for the first time the other day, and that was very cool. That was kind of like peak Star Wars greatness too, that world between worlds thing.
Oh yeah. A lot of people have a problem with World Between Worlds. I really love it.
I think it's great. I mean, it makes sense that that's within, like, Jedi powers, but it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, we know how to do this, but we have to shut it down because no one should be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of thing. Yeah. And then you talked about the Trinity. You want me to, or you talked about the sister. You want me to throw up the Trinity picture real quick?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead and throw up the Trinity picture. That's from right outside the World Between Worlds, in which we see Morai depicted on the shoulder of the daughter.
Yeah, this was very cool. Dustin, you should watch Rebels at least to get to this stuff, because this was like super great Star Wars.
Oh yeah, no, my honestly, I think I'm gonna check it out once the season's over.
At least to get to this stuff, it's the end. That's the end of it.
No, that is, but like the really great Ahsoka stuff is like end of season 2, and like there's a lot of super great stuff that I've seen so far in Rebels. Yeah, I won't just keep talking about Rebels because it's very good. But
yeah, I mean, we'll get back to it later.
Oh yeah, we do. But yeah.
So yeah, Mando reveals that he was sent to kill Ahsoka, and then they have
a fight first, right? They battle. Like Ahsoka thinks he's coming for her and like goes after him, and they have a battle. And Beskar is totally lightsaber proof. He's just going like this and blocking her blows.
Is this the first real confirmation that we've gotten of this? Like, this is the first time that we've seen in new canon a lightsaber not being able to cut through Beskar?
Yeah, it's always been like general knowledge or just kind of assumed. But yeah, this is the first confirmation of it.
Yeah.
Mace Windu had a good clean swing then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Right
through the cloth.
Yeah, they don't have anything there.
Yeah, way to not have a neck guard, you ding dong.
Well, none of them learned that lesson because.
Well, none of them listened to Wu-Tang Clan or what's his face. Django would have known to protect his neck.
There's a shot in the Clone Wars where Ahsoka, in one fell swoop, beheads 4 Mandalorians.
Oh yeah, that was rad.
So they decide to go back into town and go after the Magistrate and team up.
A Jedi and a Mandalorian, they'll never see it coming. Except for all the other times that a Jedi and a Mandalorian have teamed up. In Star Wars television shows.
Well, the people in this universe did not watch that, so they don't know.
I know, but it's a great line. It's a great tropey of tropes. So good.
So yeah, then Ahsoka storms the wall, and then she confronts the Magistrate and takes on the soldiers, while Mando helps free and protect the townspeople.
Yeah. So I mean, before we get there, we get another reference. Mandalorian calls the lightsabers a laser sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Another one.
A great line.
Why is Disney all about the laser sword? We because we get that in
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi, right?
I mean, truthfully, I'm disappointed that they haven't been calling them laser swords from the jump. I'm a fan of calling things something that demystifies and takes all the coolness out of it.
But every time that we do hear it called a laser sword, it's like it's a slight. You think you can take on the whole army with your laser sword? Like, I don't know. I just
Anakin calls in a laser sword in episode 1.
Oh, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, I feel like it's
stupid.
just like when you're free of the context of what that weapon is and what it means, you're just like, oh, it's a sword, but a laser.
Yep.
That's what I always just assumed. But,
I mean, if somebody showed me that for the first time, that's exactly what my a sword that's a laser sword. Neat.
But yes,
Like a light sword is technically just a flashlight.
it's very weak, very weak. Beskar is also flashlight resistant. Yeah. But then we get this great, just storming the castle moment of aggressive negotiations, as it were.
Yeah.
She takes
cutting
out the
people
bell.
down.
The takeout of the bell was so freaking cool. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and using it to mask her cutting someone in half.
Yes. Oh
great
man.
shot.
So good.
I know there's only so much violence they can actually show us, but I love when they cover it up and we know that something awful's happened on the other side of it.
Implied violence is always better. Almost,
yeah.
Almost always better.
Clone War. I mean, this is something that Dave Filoni learned doing all the animation stuff because it couldn't show that kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch of implied massacres that's done very to great effect.
Really are, yeah. Yeah, those are really violent shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Then and then we get a Lothcat in this scene.
Yeah. Speaking of
Lothcats get
spirit
around.
animals, but speaking of spirit animals, this makes me hopeful that maybe we'll see Ezra in this show, because it's like Lothcat is kind of his emblem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not as much as Ahsoka's bird. What's its name again?
Morai.
Now, really quick, when you say Lothcat, you mean Space Garfield, yes?
Yeah, Space Garfield.
Yes. Space Garfield that looks
The one
like
that we saw in the Seven Samurai episode.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. They've always been in the samurai-esque episodes.
And they've always hated Mondays.
And love space lasagna.
Yes. Yes, they do.
They also look like they come out of a Miyazaki film.
They do.
100%.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
100%. When we saw them in Rebels, I immediately went and looked at My Neighbor Totoro just to be like, this is that. They're stealing from this. They're one of the weirdest looking creatures in Star Wars just because they don't feel like they fit. But then when we've seen them in live action, it actually works really well for some reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I do think that even in the live action, the Lothcat is probably the most pushing it of what they've done with weird looking space creatures. Just in terms of I feel like was it a practical creature in the Seven Samurai episode? I feel like it was
all CG.
No.
It's always all CG, right? And that actually helps it stand apart within the context of this show because so much of the creature work is practical.
Yeah.
That it still does stand out a little bit for me because it looks like a cartoon proportionally because it was designed to be a cartoon, and the adaptation is very direct. Not in a bad way, but it just looks a little cartoony in the live action context to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I love about the sequence is, I've mentioned this before, it's part of what I love the Prison Break episode so much, is that we just get both characters Batmaning for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Just popping up out of the shadows, dropping from
fun.
rooftops.
And we haven't talked about Michael Biehn being in this episode at all.
We have not.
Dustin, you admitted to it first, so I will admit to it too. I did not recognize him until I saw his name in the credits at the very end, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I realized he aped his own line from Tombstone in this episode, and it was just like, "Okay, man, let's just do all the stuff. Mandalorian, take me away. I don't care. Whatever you do, I'm going with."
And even I spent the whole episode because I recognized that it was someone that I'd seen before. I was like, I feel like I should know who this person is, but like it's not ringing any bells. And as I told Alex before the episode, it's because literally the last thing I remember seeing him in was Planet Terror, which was 13 years ago.
Yeah, 13.
Yes.
Like I know that he's gotten work since then. I'm almost positive he's been in at least one film from the Asylum, if not more.
Unfortunately, probably true.
But yeah, I haven't seen him in anything in forever, so he just looks different.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a
does.
great role, though. Like he's
Yeah.
a perfect actor for parts like this.
Yeah,
Which-
absolutely.
Makes it unfortunate that this is all we're going to get of him, but we'll get to that too.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the I knew he was coming because, again, all of these casting announcements. But you know, it's very clear that whenever you hear somebody's going to be cast in The Mandalorian, you're like, all right, they're going to be in one episode.
Yeah,
because there's no consistency.
And that's the nice thing is like I've been trying to stay away from press releases and news about the show as much as possible. So the only one that I knew about at all was Rosario Dawson for numerous reasons, because that's all over. Like I almost can't escape that news. But everyone else, like with Timothy Oliphant showing up, Titus Welliver, Michael Biehn now, like it's all been a very, very nice surprise for me. And I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ironic that you knew of the Rosario thing because I feel like that's the one thing that the runners of the show probably would have preferred be
To not
kept
tip
secret.
the hat. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It was like as soon as I saw the character name, like I recognized it. Like I've never seen those shows, but I'm case in point, you guys all through college. I'm close enough friends with people who are very, very well versed in this universe that like I'm kind of on the periphery of it most of the time.
That's how I felt for a long time until I mean, like I was always very into core Star Wars lore, but I just couldn't get into Clone Wars and stuff. And now that I have, I feel better. Maybe.
Yeah.
I definitely 2.5 seasons of The Mandalorian, or 1.5 season of The Mandalorian rather, is making me very strongly want to check it out now. So there's that to be said for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is making, when it's done, I'm going to go back and watch Rebels because I'm just going to be like, oh, I need more Star Wars content now. There's, I watched all the rest of it.
This show is paying off and giving you gratification for having watched those things. So yeah.
And
then,
plus, if we're going to go into corporate boardroom speak, it's a commercial for 2 other series now streaming on Disney Plus.
Do it. And so then Ahsoka and Morgan Elsbeth, they duel while Mando and Kyle Reese awkwardly wait outside.
What a cool freaking scene.
Yeah,
through.
It's so great. And this is the scene I mentioned earlier that's very much just straight up a recreation of the showdown in Yojimbo. And then subsequently later homaged, if you want to put it gently, in A Fistful of Dollars from Sergio Leone.
Oh yeah, where Mando in the concept art of in the end credits, he's like literally like the concept art is traced over Clint Eastwood in the Fistful of Dollars poster because he's doing the exact same pose.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing too. Like in the Yojimbo shot, the antagonist is a gunslinger. It's a samurai with a pistol, which is great. So like we've got this Western thing going on one side of the wall, and then on the other, it's the part where the music drops out at the end of Kill Bill Volume 1, which I'm so glad that they chose to drop this, like any score out during that. Like it so rarely do I think it works, but that's one of the moments where just having the sound of the fight absolutely boosts this scene and makes it something else entirely.
Yeah, sound design was utterly fantastic here. Yeah.
Because that's like also the only thing that those characters outside are hearing and can tell like what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, I love that they're just standing there like they're not taking their eyes off each other, but they're just chilling to wait and see which way the axe falls.
Yeah, I mean, as far as just kind of these one shot episodes go, I keep them coming. Like this is just delightful, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's so fun all the way through. Every scene has something to it that's like, I love that. And the fight was very well choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty believable. We've come a long way from the the New Hope just swinging, clanking the lightsabers together. Like these are all well choreographed, well thought out. They use the weapons. The even the like we talked about before, she takes the staff and she bangs it against the ground. We get that resonating
ring.
tone one more time. It's like it feels so cool.
Yeah. And I love too, like, I know that we got a new round of Star Wars trilogy these last couple of years, but like for the longest time, my brain couldn't see a lightsaber fight without waiting. I was like, all right, when are all the whirly somersaults and everything going to come in? And this one was very restrained. Like,
Yeah.
Ahsoka flips one time, and it felt like a natural thing to do in the context of that fight, as opposed to Yoda turning into a green pinball.
That is the most accurate description of that fight scene I've ever heard.
That's 100% what that fight
That's
scene
absolutely
is.
what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been opposed to Yoda getting into a lightsaber fight. I'm just opposed to it looking like a level from Sonic Spinball. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought the choreography was great, and I thought it was a really nice, like, considering a lot of what we have seen of Ahsoka doing for most of the Clone Wars is kind of the Yoda green pinball kind of thing. She's very acrobatic, very all over the place, and I really liked her adapting her fighting style for this specific duel, and that fighting style was kind of more akin not necessarily to the episode 4, just like swinging around, but like maybe closer to Return of the Jedi, where it's like still more weighted and a bit more elegant and less full of flair than like the prequel lightsaber battles, but still this like refined, practiced, very deliberate thing.
She's older now. Her knees aren't what they used to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should also shout out that Morgan Elsbeth is played by Diana Lee Inosanto. She doesn't have many acting credits, but she is a martial arts artist and a stunt woman. She's worked on a ton of things, and she's also the goddaughter of Bruce Lee.
Oh wow,
that part I did not know. I did look her up and I saw all the stunt woman stuff. That makes sense.
That's very cool. She was great. I thought she held it down really well in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great presence. And
this is also the first woman-on-woman duel in Star Wars live action.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
welcome to the future, nerds.
Yeah. 2020, cry about it, you dorks. Yeah.
The thing
now
is,
the
they
women
will.
on Twitter threaten you. You idiots. Oh no, girls
Dustin
like this
needs-
thing I like.
Dustin needs one of those fanboy tears mugs.
What I need is specifically a potato gun to use on them.
Yes.
Girls can be Star Wars too. Shut up.
So then we get the resolution of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And
then nothing happened, right?
And that's kind of it. That's just they all go home.
Yep.
They call it a day. No, then Ahsoka,
Michael Biehn takes his ball and goes home.
Yeah, we get kind of the resolution then of like this gunslinger scene versus the samurai. I just how well they played both of those out, and they both had their settings.
Yeah.
I know we already talked about this, but like the melee fight taking place in like a bonsai garden, whereas the the gunslingers standing outside in like the main drag of the city,
Practically a ghost town.
Right, like the Old West ghost town. Yeah.
It just worked so well.
Totally.
And then we get the resolution to both, and they both felt true to their own genres.
Absolutely.
And worked seamlessly into this story very well too. Holy cow.
Yeah, and that's all Filoni too. Like that's every aspect of how great that is all coming from Dave Filoni on the writing and directing fronts.
I think genuinely the only thing that I wish had gone different is that Michael Biehn had kept his gun holstered and just walked away so that we could live to see him another day. Yeah, I feel like there's no time in any gunfight ever where the villain yields and then actually yields. It's always a feint, and they always are too slow on the draw, and it's the last mistake they make.
Yeah.
I would have definitely appreciated more of this character.
I think Travis and I... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think Travis and I watched some movie during our movie podcast earlier this year where at the end, the bad guys were like, okay, you won. See ya. I think
that's Space Jam.
Oh, is it Space Jam? In Space Jam, the guy... In Space Jam, the bad guys are like, all right, you won fair and square.
We lost. Here's the thing back.
Well, that was
and then we made a comment on how are things going to look in a few months.
Well, in Space Jam, Space Jam even it's less that it's the aliens turn on their boss when he finds out that he basically doesn't care about them or something. So like, it was like a common goal that united them in that.
That's true.
Not just the like, we don't need to do whatever. It's like, no, Danny DeVito, the green bug alien, sold us out.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. But I just want to say the one time that the bad guys held up their end of the deal was in Space Jam. But otherwise, yes, it's always this scene. But it was so perfectly played in this episode of Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, it was still great. It does not detract from the episode whatsoever.
Not even a little, no.
It is absolutely. If this was a movie, that's absolutely the way you would have ended it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And I mean, and I still don't think it's the way you don't end it. I just really like Michael Biehn.
Yeah.
And I don't think he gets nearly enough roles like this, especially not since Planet Terror in the last decade. Has he gotten like really great roles? Like this is probably the first one in that time that's been like, oh, what an amazing fit for this character.
Yeah.
But then we get the next scene is, at least for me, it was the fear I had with introducing someone like Ahsoka into this show anyway. We've now entered kind of the, not necessarily mainstream, like as in the movies, but we've entered like the overall Star Wars narrative, where she asks about, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is the second time that I uttered something out loud, which I'm not going to say on the podcast.
Yeah, no, same. I lost my freaking mind when she said that.
This was the first time watching anything where I said, wait, the guy from that Timothy Zahn novel?
Kudos to remembering who wrote those books.
That's literally the only name from the novels I remember is Timothy Zahn.
Well, it's because Zahn and Thrawn rhyme.
Yeah. I read those. There's like 5 key Timothy Zahn novels. There is the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and then the Hand of Thrawn duology, which I read all 5 of those books and finished them like literally months before Disney bought Star Wars. And I was like raging pissed because then they almost immediately got thrown out of canon. And I'm like, why did I just read them?
That's a waste of time.
But no, Thrawn is such a fantastic character that I didn't get to see. I mean, I know there's a lot of Rebels that I haven't seen him in. I just saw him in a handful of episodes that I watched this past weekend. But the adaptation of Thrawn from the novels to the animated series, just the characterization is like exactly how I imagined him being in terms of it, just like how he speaks and how he interacts with people. And the idea that we could possibly get a live action Grand Admiral Thrawn. I don't care if it's this season. I don't care if it's season 5. Just the idea that like one day there will be a guy in some heavy blue makeup and red eyes.
I hope it's just Paul Giamatti from Big Fat Liar.
Oh no. Dustin, had you told me, I would have made some art of that.
or David Cross in Arrested Development. Bam. There we go.
There you go.
Them.
Now that I do have.
And the other thing is too, just on a personal level, is like, my mom worked in a museum my entire life, and she only recently retired. I grew up in museums, so I grew up around people looking down at you, talking snootily about art. So I love that being wrapped up into a very powerful Star Wars villain, because that's a thing that I already love to hate, is that kind of art critic.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just so excited for the very idea of Blue Man condescending to people.
Space Smurf.
Yeah, as a Star Wars fan, I'm thrilled that we're moving this direction. As a Mandalorian fan,
No, I get what you're saying.
I don't think you have anything to worry about, Ryan. I really don't. Because I don't think we're going to see Thrawn in The Mandalorian.
So you think that this episode's a backdoor pilot, Travis?
But
I think for sure we're going to see. Well, in order to discuss that, let's throw up image number. Well, we got 9, where what we know of Thrawn, the last we knew of him was he was getting a big old hug from a space whale with Ezra.
Admiral, there be whales here.
And they have gone off into the unknown regions. We have no idea where they are. And the last we knew of both Ahsoka and Sabine was that they were going to go out looking for Ezra. And so anywhere Thrawn would be, Ezra would be, or vice versa. So it makes complete sense that she's looking for Thrawn because she's trying to find Ezra. So I think, there were, rumors about a potential animated series about the two of them searching for him, but I think it could very well be that we see a live action Sabine and Ahsoka show, or just Ahsoka, or, anything like that where she's trying to find Thrawn / Ezra.
Right.
I'm excited about this.
I'm excited too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Because if they'll give us Grand Admiral Thrawn, Dash Rendar's not out of the question.
It's true.
That's the important thing. That's what I'm here for. Timothy Oliphant and Dash Rendar.
Good point.
Yeah. And then what you've already talked about there, Travis, is like that does bring Sabine into the picture, who obviously has major ties to Bo-Katan, the Darksaber, Mandalorians in general. Like she carries as much weight as Ahsoka carries in the Jedi lore. Sabine carries in the Mandalorian lore.
Sure.
And I feel like that was inevitable for her to show up in some way, shape, or form, right? Yeah. Have we heard anything about her showing up? I mean, it's not going to be this season.
So.
No, there were rumors that Sasha Banks, who we saw as one of the Mandalorians that was with Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
There were rumors that she would be playing Sabine, but it ended up not being the case.
Yes.
But I understand what you mean, though, because like Ryan, I think what you're kind of saying, if I may interpret, is like there's mainline, like the main vein of Star Wars. There's the main vein of Star Wars stories that we've heard for many, many, many years, and we've gotten more stories just in another place or another in that same vein of storytelling. Whereas we have Mandalorian, which up to a lot of points in this season has mostly been a parallel story. It hasn't been part of that main line, and you're concerned about it merging with that main line and just becoming part of the whole narrative rather than standing alone as its own thing. As it has been.
I mean, I think first season stood on its own, right? I mean, totally. we introduced completely new characters the whole series. We introduced a new villain, and then this season we've gotten ties to, we got confirmation that Boba Fett is alive and on Tatooine. We've seen Bo-Katan. We've seen, we've got maybe some sort of allusion to where Snoke came from. Like we've started to like really weave Mandalorian story into bigger things that we know happen in Star Wars. And I think it's been at its best when it was very independent from the rest of the story, but playing in the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I would say that I think that kind of thing was more or less inevitable by the sheer inclusion of the child.
Yeah.
If the quarry had been not Yoda's species and something else entirely, then none of this is really happening. But because we have a thing that's very obviously going to be a very powerful Force user in some way or another, I feel like it kind of has to drift that way to a degree.
Yeah.
We need some sort of answers.
Yeah.
I agree. I want more of Star Wars that's disconnected from
I agree.
what because this is a universe that is very vast.
Right.
That we really don't get to explore that much unless it's in these guided kind of pieces and parts.
I mean, the plus side is this episode is, I think, the first time in the series that they've even acknowledged the existence of a Skywalker.
I think so, yeah.
So we've got that going for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby, you got a stew going.
And I'm choosing, kind of echoing what Travis and Alex have said, is that like I think this is probably just introducing us to this stuff, but it'll probably get its own thing. Like, I'm looking at the Mandalorian as Cheers and Ahsoka Tano as Frasier.
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, I wonder what her preferred
you
wine
have
or
that high
sandwich is.
expectations of Ahsoka spinoff?
I mean, if they're looking at all these other things for a spinoff, that's pretty just as ripe as any of the other ones they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take a brief. This isn't like super a tangent, but just like let's take an inventory of what we assume to be upcoming Star Wars shows. The two that we know for a fact are Cassian Andor and Obi-Wan, right? Those are like we know those are happening. Rumored is Ahsoka Tano and a Dr. Aphra show, perhaps. Although those rumors have kind of been fairly quiet since they started.
Cassian Andor was the dude from Rogue One, yes?
Yes.
Yep.
See, I like that character. I don't know how interested I am in a show about that.
Well, I mean, like I think the thing about that show is like this is supposed to be the Western, right? That's supposed to be the spy show.
Yeah,
that's supposed to be like Space Americans.
It's developed by the same guys who did the Americans.
And that's the thing. Like there's no part of me that has any doubt that it'll probably be well done because they've been killing it with a lot of this stuff, at least the TV stuff. Like if Mandalorian is any indication of how this stuff will go, I'm sure that'll be a good show, but definitely not even in like top 10 characters. I would have said, hey, can I get a spin-off of this character?
Right. But when they were looking at what types of shows are there, what characters do we have that we could plug in?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, but it's it's a different bill.
And I mean, and that honestly, that could be the kick in the butt that the Star Wars universe needs, is to delve into more stuff. So we're not retreading to the point that we're retconning and shoving a Palpatine clone in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'll take a Star Wars The Winter Soldier. Fine.
Fine. I guess I'll take it.
Like, I would rather, even though I'm not chomping at the bit for a Cassian Andor show, I would rather watch a fair to middling Star Wars show that does something different than just see what ended up happening with the new trilogy in the final round.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And with that, you're still going to get Alan Tudyk as K2SO.
Yes.
I'm pro Alan Tudyk getting that work.
Yeah, man.
I would love to see some of him in Mandalorian at some point, right? Like,
yeah, not unreasonable to think that droid could still be around.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just meant Alan Tudyk, which I would also be fine with.
Just in general, I want him to be a pilot.
Playing himself.
Yeah, I'd even take Alan Wundick.
I just want Alan Tudyk to play himself in Mandalorian, and he just tells everybody, like, look, man, you don't really want Firefly Season 2. Nobody cares anymore. Let the past go. Kill it if you must. You get it.
Another show that I really hear is getting traction and is probably going to happen is actually Boba Fett.
Oh, okay.
Which I know does not really make sense with
I don't want that
the fact
show.
that we have
No.
this.
I don't want
No,
that show at all.
I definitely prefer Boba Fett as maybe a big bad in a later season of Mando or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Boba Fett's not interesting enough on his own to carry a show.
No, they took the things that made Boba Fett interesting, put them in a new character, and we're watching it. It's called The Mandalorian.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have a Captain Phasma series, honestly, than Boba Fett.
Give me a Yaddle show.
You said top 5 worst characters. Worst decisions.
Redeem it.
Okay.
I will say
Jar Jar,
there's I think
season 1 Ahsoka all team up.
I think there's a 2 or it's maybe a 3 episode arc of Clone Wars that's a Jar Jar story that is just actually fantastic, like totally fantastic. Jar Jar is great. Everything about the story makes sense, and it's like, again, Filoni fixed Jar Jar for like 45 minutes. You know?
Is it just like a Big Trouble in Little China thing where Jar Jar's the hero, but he does nothing to affect the story?
No, dude, it's kind of a romance.
Jar Jar could get it.
Yeah. And right, I'm not wrong, Travis. Right, these are good episodes of Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's a romance, and Mace Windu is in it, and he's very grumpy throughout.
He is technically a war hero and a diplomat.
Yeah.
So I mean,
for everything else that Clone Wars did well, Mace Windu kind of just got the short stick.
Yeah,
he did. I would watch a Mace Windu series.
For sure. I don't know.
They already have the files prepped to de-age Sam Jackson.
There you go.
The digital assets are already in the Disney vaults.
And I mean, and like many others, the thing that I liked best about the prequels to begin with was Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. So they're delivering on that eventually.
Yeah. You don't have to de-age Mace. I mean, he was just thrown out of a window, and
that's true.
That's true.
Every single person that we've seen thrown down a shaft or fall from a great height in Star Wars has never died.
Tell that to the stormtrooper in episode 2 of this season.
I mean,
maybe he had a jetpack.
Yeah.
No, he hits the ground. We see Mando fly up, and then we see him fall down. Or
maybe he's just very
thing.
Badly hurt.
He'll get better.
I just want them to retcon the prequels where new Mace Windu goes back and throws Palpatine out the window.
Oh, that would have been so much of a better ending.
If Rise of Skywalker had ended with that as a sequence, I would have forgiven every misstep that movie took.
It's a lot of missteps.
Oh, if they would have committed to just giving a middle finger to people that hard, and for a better reason than they did, I would have been for it.
Fair enough.
I'm all for
Travis is trying to get us out of here.
Sorry.
Stay on target.
I'm all for angering fans as long as it's not out of cowardice. That's all.
Sure. Yeah.
Throw his ass out the window.
Oh, boy.
Ahsoka takes up the magistrate there, and as the town celebrates their liberation, Mando goes to receive Grogu and to say goodbye to him. And then Ahsoka tells him again that she cannot train him, and then tells him to go to Tython and place Grogu on a sing stone at the old Jedi temple, and from there he will decide his own path.
Now, I had to look up Tython. Travis, why don't you remind us exactly what in the heck Tython is?
Is it a living snake planet?
You are going to be more informed on it than I am, because that comes from mostly the books that I have not read.
Well, I mean, it's kind of in the way that the way I understand it, in the way that they made like Exegol and Rise of Skywalker like the quote unquote Sith homeworld. Like Tython is kind of the quote unquote Jedi homeworld. That's a correct? That's like not inaccurate to say, right? You think, Trev?
Yeah, no, from what I understand, yes, because it's got the Ashla and Bogan moons, which are those were early concepts that George had for names for the light side and dark side of the Force.
Right.
So, yeah, it's got a lot of deep ties there.
And I think there's a lot more about that actually in the Knights of the Old Republic. I think Tython factors in significantly into those games.
Yeah.
Which I've never actually played.
I have played that game, but that was nearly 20 years ago,
Yeah,
so I cannot remember.
But the implication of that, which is again some more just like very deep Star Wars nerdery, bringing up Tython, like very deep, like that's a thing that like maybe you'd know about because you read a book or you like played the video game and you read like a source book and it's in like a list of planets or something, you know, like for the same reason that I know that Clackdor 7 is the planet that the Bith come from. And that they, as a species, are musically inclined. Like these are the things I know as a Star Wars nerd. Yeah, that the like blowing up the universe, blowing it up that big, like giving us a live action representation of Tython is kind of a huge, conceptually very very big, like kind of bigger than Thrawn, I think. And also, wait, can we just also mention that like this is now. 10 years probably since Thrawn has been sucked into hyperspace, and he still just maintains the rank of Grand Admiral. He hasn't ascended to a higher rank in that 10 years. Every Imperial officer is ranking up all the time.
I mean, technically, if we're sticking to naming conventions, then what would it be? Grand Admiral?
There's got to be something above. Is Moff not above?
Like your grandparents' parent.
Yeah, Grand. I don't know. That just occurred to me. Like he still has the same rank. Like they didn't. He's not like so many of them died. Like he didn't get promoted into some like. They didn't create a position. I don't know.
But if he's kind of
these are ramblings.
AWOL right now.
True.
Maybe he had ascended and then got demoted again.
Grand Admiral. Well, she could just say Thrawn. This is super nitpicky. Let's move on. But Tython.
No. Let's dig in right here.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of which, there's another image. Thrawn's 7th Fleet. That's on the side of the HK-87 droids.
So that's kind of insane.
Yeah. Like you see it there, and it's also on the pauldron of the Stormtrooper. So.
Like this is like drawing this into Mandalorian is similar to drawing the logo that was on the Death Trooper guys that was drawn from like that old RPG in the 90s. Like this is similar.
And there's another one, Dr. Pershing. What's his name from the first?
Pershing, yeah.
Pershing.
Oh, yeah, the clone.
The clone, the clone insignia stuff. Like, do we think that these mean something, or do we think that these are just set dressing? That's like, this is Star Wars.
No, I think these very, very definitely all mean the thing that they are like known for in the lore and whatever. I think this is all very deliberately placed, and it does make me think that somewhere printed out like spiral bound at FedEx there is like a book of like logos and their factions that some department is referencing and Filoni can reference and be like, page 3 number 4, put that on the helmets.
I mean,
I gotta think that exists.
Yes.
I just want it. Give me it. That's what I want. I like the logos.
So yeah, Ahsoka says there's a chance that a Jedi Master will feel little Grogu's presence and come searching for him.
And that's insane.
So we're definitely going to get probably somebody. Is it going to be somebody that we already know? Is it going to be Luke Skywalker or Mace Windu or Ezra? Or Yaddle. Who's it going to be?
Or Mara Jade.
Yeah,
Mara Jade.
That's the other thing.
They could revive Mara Jade for no reason other than to do it.
The ghost of Kit Fisto.
No, I would want the ghost of Ki-Adi-Mundi. And I want him to be still concerned about the Wookiees.
I almost went Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Knobhead.
But Kit Fisto is more fun to say.
That's true. And he was a super badass in the Clone Wars and the Gennady Tarkovsky Clone Wars prior to.
And
especially
went out in such a disappointing fashion in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the Jedi went out
I was
pretty
going to say, as did
disappointingly.
most of them. As did Plo Koon, as did Kiadi Mundi, as did
The
whole lot of
galaxy's
them.
greatest warriors murdered by clones. Gotcha.
What are you gonna do?
Their spider sense was not tingling.
We still have The Empire Strikes Back. It's okay.
So yeah, then so Mando takes off, and Ahsoka's left there, and we hear some more of her theme, the Kevin Kiner created, and we get to see, just hear that being brought into the Mandalorian. We also heard Yoda's theme when she mentions his name, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
So
I also like we got in the scene where Mando goes back to his ship, we get a reworking like a pan flute version of his theme music.
Yeah.
Ludwig
For like a
Göransson's been-
split second, I was like, "Are they gonna play Yub Nub?"
I would have loved it. It would have been the wrong choice, but I would have loved it.
Absolutely. I'm fine with wrong choices if they're funny.
Yeah. No, Ludwig Göransson's been like really killing it this season.
Oh, so good.
And it's like he's made a new score for every episode.
I think he is.
Like very distinct from each other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of shows, they'll just create a library and then resample and what they did on Twin Peaks is Angelo Badalamenti recorded just like so many iterations of every piece of music that he wrote with different instrumentation, and then it was up to the music editor on the show to piece it together how it needed to be per every episode. But I think that this is being scored like a traditional feature on a week-to-week basis, which is just like really crazy.
Which is good. I mean, they probably because they got the bigger budget for it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, people getting paid on this show.
Oh yeah.
It shows though.
I think like Mondo just released, or they set up like a pre-order for the score, and it's like an 8 LP just for season 1, which is insane.
I'm not interested in that. You know what I am interested in? Mondo's upcoming LP issue of the solo score by John Powell, which is so freaking great, and I'm really excited to own on vinyl. That's all.
A little commercial for that.
So wizarding.
I would go as far as to say that they are both wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're both wizard. I'm psyched about this. I just really love the solo score, and I was really bummed when it didn't get a vinyl release.
Oh yeah. Well, and one of them is also going to be drastically cheaper than the other.
Right, one's like a $35 pre-order. I don't even want to think about how much the 8 LP Mandalorian set is.
It's 200 bones.
Oof. It's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, if anybody rich listens to the podcast and wants to be my vinyl mama or daddy, buy the Mandalorian score for me on vinyl when it drops.
Help us, Travis. Get us out of here.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna derail. I'm just gonna keep derailing unless.
I was gonna say there's other stuff I wanted to talk about. There's still there's this awesome concept art at the end.
Yeah.
Of I really love this piece of Ahsoka's 2 lightsabers, which are both white, because she doesn't really align herself with either side, but the concept art of one of them, looking blue and the other one deflecting a blaster, so it's red. Just this balance that she's in, which I honestly felt like was where Rey's journey in the sequel trilogy was meant to go, but they did not do that. So I really love that. I also thought it was everyone kept referring to her as a Jedi, and she never corrected them. I kept waiting for the line,
I am no Jedi.
but
Yeah.
not to be.
Yeah. Maybe she doesn't find it as important to make the distinction anymore now that there basically aren't Jedi.
Yeah. She's like, I got to keep that hope alive for people somehow.
Yeah. She knows she's not answering to anybody. There's no authority in the Jedi structure anymore, so.
No.
Yeah. Now, is that an alignment thing, or did she never finish her training?
Well, let's not spoil it for him.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We'll find out.
It's yeah.
It's a Star Wars thing.
It's a whole Star War.
So yeah, that is this week's episode, and that's a pretty hefty one.
Yeah, we needed to talk about this one for a little bit longer, I think.
Yes.
Thanks to all the true blues, of which there are like maybe 3, who stuck with us for the podcast.
Yeah. So until next week, in which I think we're getting the Robert Rodriguez episode.
Ooh, that's exciting. It's going to be cheesy as hell, like everything he do.
There's no Antonio Banderas or Trejo. I'm going to be very sad.
I feel like Trejo's got to show up,
I
even
hope
as
Trejo's
a voice
in
or
it.
something.
Yeah.
Space Machete.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Machete don't Star Wars.
So until we see that episode, Ryan, where can people find more of your work?
You can find me on Twitter at Harbjagen. That's HARBJAGEN. What about you, Dustin?
You can find me, I got all my stuff at DustinMeadowsComedy.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and soon on Twitch at Dustin Meadows.
Ooh, buddy.
And Alex.
Twitter and Instagram at Alex Brunel. I'll also just take a moment because Bandcamp is waiving their fees this upcoming Friday like they've been doing it the first of every month. Go to misfits.bandcamp.com and buy a very pretty looking LP of Misfits parodies as if they were written by angry robots from outer space. It's a cheap LP and we'll get all the money if you buy it on Friday.
Yeah. I'm actually going to piggyback off Alex's. I also have a Bandcamp. It's dustinmeadows.bandcamp.com. I don't have the Robot Misfits album, but I've got some other stuff. But yeah, give your money to artists, because this Friday it all goes to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the Misfits album is a lot of fun. I can personally recommend and vouch for it.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Yeah, two of the backers of the project are in here. And Ryan, I just didn't know you yet, so that's okay.
Wow, I got outed.
I just didn't know you.
All right, and then you can find the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, where we stream every show on video each week. Please find us on any podcast app that you use. Subscribe and leave reviews. We appreciate all of them. Reach out to us at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, initiate self-destruct sequencing.